I saw the Van Helsing movie in theaters when I was in high school. My sister had a school trip where she needed to get on an airplane super early in the morning, so my family got up at like 3:30 to see my sister and dad off on their journey. Then I got home and watched an episode of FANGFACE, that's kind of like Scooby-Doo if Shaggy was a werewolf, on Cartoon Network. Later that afternoon, me and my mom went to watch this movie, Sleep Deprived. Afterwards, I watched the 3-part Justice League episode Starcrossed. The events of that day I would rank in order from best to worst: watching Starcrossed, watching FANGFACE, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, and then watching this awful movie. Years later, I paid $1 for it at a yard sale within walking distance of my house. I also got Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer at that fateful yard sale. So, Van Helsing, a 2004 homage to the Universal monster movies of the 1930s and 40s. What if James Bond fought monsters in Victorian-era Europe? Sounds amazing, but where did this movie go wrong? Well, I won't say everything is wrong with it. After all, it's been 16 years and the movie has still stuck with me, so it had to do something right, but this movie could have been a lot better. So I came up with 10 different things that I would have done differently with the Van Helsing movie. Let's get into it. Number 1, make the whole movie black and white. This is an homage to black and white movies. It would be cool if this could be black and white as well. I'm sure the studio would veto that, as kids these days would probably look at a black and white movie as being too boring or something like that, but the scene at the beginning at Castle Frankenstein looks great, so I don't think the movie had to be in color. If anything, this would set it apart from any other vampire werewolf movies that might be coming out around this same time. Number 2, figure the tone out. Is this a fun, lighthearted throwback to the movies of yore like Stephen Sommers' The Mummy, or is this a tortured drama about a man who hunts monstrous people who are mostly innocent and didn't ask for this lot in life, and he's constantly angsting about that? Pick a lane and stay in it. I think you could do a fun, fast-paced adventure film with heavier themes of what is my purpose in life, should I be doing more than killing when the church tells me to kill, but no offense, I don't think Stephen Sommers was the guy to try to walk that tightrope. Number 3, trim down the opening of the movie. Remove the Mr. Hyde scene, remove the death of Dr. Frankenstein scene, remove the scene of Velkin disappearing and say that he is already missing when M gives James Bond the mission. You can still get an idea of what this world is like and who this Van Helsing guy is with the big action scene with Dracula's brides when Van Helsing and Carl first arrive in Transylvania without all this extra stuff weighing the movie down. This movie isn't even all that long, but these scenes slow things down in a big way, and they don't really serve much purpose. If anything, they kind of deflate tension. We get to see Dracula in his lower level monster face seconds after he's introduced in the opening scene. That is a fundamental breakage of the unspoken rule of don't show your monster until half an hour in. You can show the other smaller monsters like the brides, but the big guns maybe don't show that first thing in the movie. And you might say a lot of James Bond movies open with a completely unrelated adventure to show what Bond is all about, and that's what the Mr. Hyde scene is in this movie. Sure, but then you've still got like 3 other scenes that either need to be removed or shortened right at the beginning of the movie. Don't make me bored out of my mind by the time Van Helsing gets to Transylvania just when the story is starting. Number 4, give our characters actual depth and dimension. Carl is the annoying comic relief guy that everyone wishes wasn't here. The monster is just a damsel in distress everyone needs to save, and Van Helsing and Anna Valerius are both stoic monster hunting adventure heroes with very little distinguishing them from each other. Carl should be the clever tech-savvy inventor who saves everyone's bacon a couple of times with some on-the-spot thinking, like a solar gun that keeps vampires at bay. He's Q-Branch to Van Helsing's Bond, but as soon as the movie puts him in the field, he becomes air quotes comic relief in a movie that can't decide if it wants to be a laughable melodrama or a fun adventure film. Give him some other dimension to his character. Look at Jonathan in Stephen Sommers' The Mummy. He seems like a lovable idiot who can't do anything right, but at the end, he knows how to read Egyptian, and he's the one who gets rid of Imhotep's immortality. The monster here should be almost childlike, since he's just a few years old, and has probably hidden himself from the rest of the world, so he doesn't have a whole lot of life experience. Anna Valerius should be nearly nihilistic in her worldview, as she's watched her entire family die trying to kill Dracula. She doesn't think anything will work, so she's reckless, and doesn't care what happens to her. This could lead to some character drama that actually makes sense and stems from who these characters are, instead of characters flip-flopping on their worldview to provide easy tension. Van Helsing feeling bad about having to kill people like the Bride of Dracula, who probably didn't ask to be turned into a vampire, or Dr. Jekyll, who likely had no control over the evil Mr. Hyde was doing, that stuff is fine and can stay here, but the movie is incredibly inconsistent with his views on when or if he should kill. He's ready to kill Anna's brother Velkin when he's a werewolf, then he says they should rescue Velkin, then within 10 minutes he's back to saying that they should kill him. He draws his gun on the monster, then he says no, they shouldn't kill the monster because he can sense evil and he senses none in the monster. I'm pretty sure Velkin isn't evil, he's just been caught up in this mess like everyone else that Van Helsing has killed. Maybe just stick with it's a dirty job and someone's got to do it. Sure, Velkin may be a nice guy, but if he can't rein in the beast, then he has to go, or many other innocents will die at his hands. You can still keep the core ideas of Van Helsing's character the movie is sort of toying with, but be a little bit more consistent with it. Number 5, let's put the monster in more of the movie so that he can be more than just a damsel that they rescue. As is, it is an hour and 10 minutes into the movie when we first see the monster, not counting the opening scene. Even if you truncate the first act of the movie a little bit, over halfway into the film is way too late to introduce someone who, for my money, should be a main character in this film. Since we're cutting the opening scene at Castle Frankenstein, we can say Dracula kidnapped the monster before the events of the movie, tried to use its blood to give his children life, which is what he wants to do in the movie, but it didn't work. Then either the monster escaped or Dracula released it as it served no use to him. And the monster's been living with Anna ever since then, which puts him in contact with Van Helsing around the same time Anna first meets him near the beginning of the movie. This is much better than introducing him and almost immediately having him kidnapped by Dracula's brides. Number 6, who or what can kill Dracula? The priest who sends Van Helsing to Transylvania says only someone in the Valerius family can kill Dracula, so that the rest of the Valeriuses can go to heaven. Spoilers, that does not happen. Van Helsing kills Dracula, and we see Anna's spirit ascend into the skies, despite directly being told multiple times that this was only possible if one of the Valeriuses killed Dracula. But then Carl finds a prophecy painted on the wall that shows a werewolf killing Dracula. It could have been cool if Velkin knew about this prophecy, so he deliberately got himself turned into a werewolf so he could kill Dracula. Maybe he found a wild werewolf, killed it, and scratched himself with his fang before it died. I assume Stephen Sommers thinks werewolves versus vampires is really cool, and he wants the hero of the movie to be a big part of the big finale, so he has Van Helsing become a werewolf and kill Dracula. But don't write it into your story that only one of the Valerius clan can kill Dracula. I actually prefer one of the Valeriuses be the one to pull the trigger in the end, and I think you can have Van Helsing be a big part of defeating the bad guy without being the one to defeat him. Look at the first Iron Man movie. Pepper Potts is actually the one that pushes the button that gets Ironmonger defeated. Do something like that. Van Helsing distracts Dracula with fisticuffs while Anna plunges a sword into him. Number 7, simplify Dracula's whole deal in this movie. He dies, makes a deal with the devil, comes back to Earth, his dad banishes him to an icy castle, which apparently he can leave whenever he wants since we see him at Castle Frankenstein at the beginning of the movie, and then after banishment, the devil gave him wings for some reason. Somehow, werewolves are his only weakness, which if the devil gave him all of these power boosts, why did he give him such a specific weakness? Did God see that Satan had his own super soldier experiment running around on Earth, and he created werewolves so that everything would be fair? And who found out that werewolves were Dracula's only weakness and painted the prophecy on the wall that Carl found? This needs to be simplified. I'm okay with saying that most vampires are weak sauce compared to Dracula. People have tried wooden stakes, crucifixes, the works. None of it can kill him. I'm okay with hinting that Satan is the one who sent Dracula back to Earth, as I think that was in the Bram Stoker novel. But the werewolf thing, that's only here because Sommers thought it would look cool, but it doesn't make any sense. I'll admit it does look cool, but we already had the Underworld movies. We didn't have to have werewolf versus vampire in this movie also. Number 8, what was going on with Van Helsing being an angel? I'm assuming Stephen Sommers would have explored this a little more if he got a sequel, but since he didn't, a lot of this makes about as much sense as the sequence of Dracula's origin. Van Helsing says he has fragments of memories from as far back as 73 AD, but I get the feeling the priest who sent him on this mission met him before his memories went away. So what happened to his memories? If he's an angel, then what's he doing on Earth? Is he a fallen angel? Is he doing the Lord's work? Why does an angel also need to be bitten by a werewolf to kill Dracula? In the Bible, one angel killed 185,000 soldiers in the Assyrian army. I'd say one angel could handle one Dracula, even without some extra fur and teeth. So instead of Van Helsing being an angel and having none of his origin explained in the slightest, I would say that he's a demon. Abraham Van Helsing, from Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, bound a demon into human form, and in the process the demon lost his memories. So the church takes advantage of this and uses this demon to kill and hunt down other aberrations that they don't approve of. So the big battle is essentially demon versus demon, since Dracula got his power upgrade from the devil. This way, it makes sense that Dracula would recognize Van Helsing. It doesn't really work that some ordinary dude who was once part of the Valerius family somehow recognizes an archangel. Even with his special relationship with the Dark Lord, he shouldn't know who this guy is. And instead of Dracula attempting to use the monster to give his children life, as soon as he sees Van Helsing, he knows Van Helsing can be the conduit, because an actual demon would be much more powerful than the monster or the werewolf or whatever else that Dracula has tried. Oh, and I would say Carl did not know the truth about Van Helsing, so it doesn't appear the closest thing to a friend Van Helsing has was lying to him about who he was. Carl is surprised, but is still willing to stick by Van Helsing's side, even when it comes to my next point. Number 9. In the movie we got, I'm not really sure where Van Helsing stands with his bosses at the end of the film, as the movie glosses over his angst about being forced to kill monsters. But I would say he cuts his ties with the church, but chooses to continue going on adventures and protecting the innocent. Finding out the truth about who he is, that doesn't change his drive to help people. The only thing that changed is blindly killing who the church points him at, as he knows that not all monsters are bad, but some of them are. And if you wanted to do a sequel, maybe the church is intimidated by Van Helsing cutting ties to them, so they send another monster hunter to try and take him out in the next movie. And number 10, in my fix, Anna Valerius does not die. The movie wants to go for tragedy while also being as safe as possible, so the love interest has to die. Aw, sad. But she inexplicably gets to go to heaven, even though that breaks the movie's established rules. Hooray! Van Helsing feels alone in the world. Aw, sad. But at least we restored the status quo and he isn't stuck as an ugly, hairy werewolf anymore. Yay! It's in this really weird place between happy ending and tragedy, like it doesn't know what to do, much like the rest of the movie. So instead, Anna lives, with her entire family dead and the people in town somehow finding out that Dracula was part of her family, and they aren't too keen on her sticking around because it reminds them of Dracula. She has nowhere else to go. So she follows Van Helsing, the monster, and Carl, and they will go on some other adventure. Maybe you could play around a little bit with her friendship with Van Helsing in light of his demonic origins being revealed. And that's it. Honestly, the bare bones of this movie, Dracula wants to use some inhuman monster to bring his spawn to life, and Van Helsing and friends have to stop him, that's all fine. It's just the execution and the weird details that don't work. But I think with these 10 changes, maybe it could have been a better movie. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and in the meantime, I'll see you guys with some other kind of video next week. Until then, have a good one.